Hey, 7th grade. So we are going to jump into chapter 37. Um, you should have a piece of paper that has chapter 37 on it. If you don't, then just open up your book to chapter 37. If you don't have your book, use the PDF on Google Classroom. So I'm going to be reading through chapter 37. It's pretty short, and then we're going to get into all the other stuff like, this actual classwork. So we're going to start with chapter 37. Here we go. I do not tell lies. Mother used to say this was because I was a good person. But it is not because I am a good person. It is because I can't tell lies. Mother was a small person who smelled nice. And she sometimes wore a fleece with a zip down the front which was pink, and it had a tiny label which said Berghaus on the left bosom. A lie is when you say something happened which didn't happen. But there is only ever one thing which happened at a particular time and a particular place. And there are an infinite number of things which didn't happen at the time and that place. And if I think about something which didn't happen, I start thinking about all the other things which didn't happen. For example, this morning for breakfast I had Ready Brek and some hot raspberry milkshake. But if I say that I actually had Shreddies and a mug of tea, I start thinking about Cocoa Pops and lemonade and porridge and Dr. Pepper and how I wasn't eating my breakfast in Egypt and there wasn't a rhinoceros in the room and father wasn't wearing a diving suit and so on, and even writing this makes me feel shaky and scared. Like I do when I'm standing out on the top of a very tall building and there are thousands of houses and cars and people below me and my head is so full of all these things that I'm afraid that I'm going to forget to stand up straight and hang on to the rail and I'm going to fall over and be killed. This is another reason why I don't like proper novels, because they are lies about things which didn't happen and they make me feel shaky and scared. And this is why everything I have written here is true. So that was chapter 37. We're going to take a look at these first two questions. We're going to take a look at question 1 by itself first. Just so you guys know, for those of you who love to move ahead, I recommend that you still tune in when we get to the different questions just to make sure that you're fully answering the question. So, for question 1, how does Christopher define lie and why is this significant? Now, if you take a look, I'm asking you 2 questions within this question. The first question you need to answer: how does Christopher define lie? What does he think a lie is? Once you have that answer, you need to analyze that answer. Okay, Christopher thinks this is what a lie is. Why is that significant? Why is that important? Why should we care that that's what he thinks a lie is? So make sure you are answering both parts of those questions, and I will check back in with you in 3 minutes. Okay, so let's jump back into it. We are on question 2. So with question 2, you're going to have to use your answer to question 1 for this one. So we already wrote down what Christopher says a lie is and why it's important, why it's significant. So what does this mean for us as readers? What do we learn about Christopher? Like, what can we determine about Christopher as a person based off of what he defines a lie is? All right. Also, I just wanted to point out, keep in mind, we talked about this last time, how Christopher tends to digress while he talks. Remember, digression, that's when you are on topic for something and then you change topics in the middle of speaking and then jump back to your original topic. So I would also recommend that you keep that in mind while you're giving this answer. So what does this mean for us as readers, how Christopher defines a lie? What is it that we're learning about Christopher? I'm going to give you 1 minute to answer that one, and then we'll move on to the next one. Alrighty, jumping back into things, we are on question 3. We're going to reread paragraph 4. And what we're looking at these next 2 questions. First, we're going to reread paragraph 4. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. It's this bigger one. All right, we're going to reread this one. For example, this morning for breakfast, I had Ready Brek and some hot raspberry milkshake. But if I say that I actually had Shreddies and a mug of tea, I start thinking about Cocoa Pops and lemonade and porridge and Dr. Pepper and how I wasn't eating my breakfast in Egypt and there wasn't a rhinoceros in the room and father wasn't wearing a diving suit and so on, and even writing this makes me feel shaky and scared like I do when I'm standing on the top of a very tall building and there are thousands of houses and cars and people below me and my head is so full of all these things and I'm afraid that I'm going to forget to stand up straight and hang on the rail and I'm going to fall over and be killed. So, for paragraph 4, what's the impact of this? Like, what impact does including all this have within the context of this entire passage? So, what effect does including this have, uh, especially compared to these other paragraphs? I'm going to give you a good 2 minutes to answer that, and away we go. Alrighty. Looking at question 4, this one is pretty similar to question 3. So you've already talked about what the impact is of paragraph 4 on us as readers. So now I want you to think in terms of the author, an author's perspective. What do you think was the purpose of the author including paragraph 4? Why do you think the author felt it was necessary to include this paragraph into this entire chapter? You might want to consider, what was the author trying to show us about Christopher? Anyway, with that, we'll do a minute and a half. That seems fair. And then we'll move on to the next one. Okay. Question 5. Infer based on C, that's Christopher, infer based on Christopher's definition of lie what he thinks truth must mean. So with this particular question, we can assume that, a lie is the opposite of truth. So take whatever your definition was from question 1 and essentially flip it. So if Christopher thinks this is what a lie is, he must mean this is what a truth is. So like I said, you can take your answer to question 1, put the thing down, flip it and reverse it, and it's just essentially the opposite of lie. So I'm going to go ahead and give you another minute and a half, and then we'll jump into question 6. for this very last question on the first page, I want you to analyze this from a couple different directions. So it's asking, how does the truth make Christopher feel? All right. Now, you're first of all taking a look at your answer from question 5, and you're determining what he thinks the truth is. So, if this is what he thinks the truth is, how do you think it makes him feel? Now, I recommend you take a look at how lies make him feel and how he feels when lies happen. And in the same way that in question 5 we took his definition of lie and inferred what his definition of truth would be, I recommend that you take a look at how lies make him feel and then make an inference on how the truth makes him feel. Go ahead and take I'll do 2 minutes on this one. I really want you to think about it. So, 2 minutes on the clock, starting now. So my bad having the wrong question highlighted there, but I hope you did question 6. So getting back into the classwork, flip the page over. Yes, you do have an Asasis. It is what it is. But before we get into that, we're not even going to think about that right now. We're going to think about this question up here. So this question tells you to think about this. Does someone trying to solve a mystery need to be able to process a lot of different information? So if someone were trying to solve a mystery, do you think that person would need to have the ability to process, to handle, to think about different pieces, different types of information? Okay? Do you think that's something that would be useful to have, or do you think it doesn't matter? I want you to take just 1 minute, jot down thoughts. It does not need to be a full sentence, doesn't need to be anything fancy. Just jot down your initial thoughts. It can be bullet points, that's perfectly fine. Just get the thoughts on the paper. And we're back. Now we're going to tackle the Asasis. So with this, our big question is, based on your close read today, is Christopher a reliable narrator? Now, what is reliable narrator? I'm so glad you asked, Moo. So, a reliable narrator is someone we as the readers or audience can trust. So, we have the narrator. In this case, that would be Christopher. He's the one telling the story. He's the one whose perspective we are experiencing everything from. We don't get to really get anyone else's perspective. So, Christopher is our narrator. Now, do you as an audience member, do you as a reader, think that Christopher is trustworthy? Now, that doesn't mean, like, do you think that Christopher, tells the truth or that Christopher never lies? We're not necessarily just talking about that Christopher never lies, but do you think that we can trust what Christopher is saying? So do you think if, you know, do you think that someone else in Christopher's life would agree with the way that Christopher is telling these stories? So that is essentially what it means to be a reliable narrator. Do we think that as the audience members, we can truly believe what our narrator is saying? Like, do we think that this character, that this narrator is speaking in, like, what they're saying is actually true? Now, like I said, this is different from whether or not he thinks it's true, because someone, can think that something is true, but reality is actually different. So we're taking a look at the reality piece. Do we think that Christopher is reliable? Do we think that what he's saying is what's actually going on? Okay, and you're going to answer that based off of the information that you put on this first page. Now, here's the cool thing. You can also check out some of these other pages that I've listed here for you, okay? These other pages have just some extra little nuggets of information for you that you can feel free to choose from. So, just want to highlight, you do need 2 pieces of textual evidence. It is an Asasis. And so I recommend that you start off by saying something along the lines of, Christopher is a reliable narrator because, oh my gosh, hello typing, because, and you give your answer. So if you think that yes, Christopher is trustworthy, yes, we the readers can trust that what Christopher is saying is what's happening, then yeah, put your answer. Christopher is a reliable narrator because this. And boom, you already have your A. You just need to back it up with evidence and explanations. Now, on the flip side, if you don't think that Christopher is a reliable narrator, then you would say Christopher is, boom, not a reliable narrator because why? And then there you go. You have your answer. You just need your textual evidence, your explanations, and your summary. But your summary is basically your answer anyway. So this right here already knocks out 2 of the pieces for you, your A and your S essentially. Boom. So I'm going to give you 15 minutes to work on your Asasis. Now, here's the super cool and special thing about this Asasis, my friends. This will be graded as a formative. Yes, so the front page will be graded practice and participation. All right? The back is graded as a formative. All right? 2 grades, 1 worksheet, Too Fast, Too Furious. I'm going to give you 15 minutes to work on that, and it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome because all of you are great writers, and I trust that you'll do great stuff. So you do that, 15 minutes, and I'm going to go order a pizza. Okay, so now that you've done the Asasis, we're feeling good, we're feeling accomplished, and mastery check jump scare. So we have one of these. You do have a mastery check. It's gonna be fine. We're gonna get through it. I'm gonna give you 7 minutes. That's including, powering up your computers, all that good stuff. If your computers are working, if your computers aren't working, then we ask the sub for a paper copy and we go about our business. So I'm gonna give y'all 7 minutes to do that. Um, and yeah, that's it. The end. 7 minutes. Away we go. Well, let me move my face first. Or I'm just gonna break this thing. Oh, okay, here we go. Alrighty. So, just to wrap things up, I'm trying to make this quick because I'm tracking my pizza and it's almost here. I want to point out to you your homework, which is to read this evening. You're going to read pages 34 to 48. Let me just zoom in on that for you. This is your homework for tonight. All right? 34 to 48. You're annotating for Christopher's investigative skills. All right? You're paying attention to like whether or not he's even good at investigating. Like, what are his skills in investigating? What is he doing? What's his process? Is it effective? Is it not effective? All that good stuff. Also, just make sure that we have everything organized and together. Joseph, Florian, and Gabby, can you go and collect everyone's classwork and everyone's mastery checks if they have them? Take them, make the papers all, nice in a stack, give them to the sub. Everyone else, make sure your names are on everything. Y'all keep turning things in without your names, then you're big mad when you don't get a grade for it. Turn things in with your names. Check that right now before you turn anything in. So, with that, please don't email me unless you actually need something. Have a good rest of your day. And yeah, let me know if there's anything that you have any questions on, if anything was confusing, all that good stuff. Okay, bye. Bye, 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 bye.